What if you could summon every minion in Terraria? I've always wondered what it would be like if you weren't limited by minion slots and instead you were limited by how many unique minions you could summon. Then when you get a new summon weapon, you wouldn't have to throw away the old one, and instead you could collect all the minions like Pokemon. I haven't played Terraria in ages, and for reasons even I don't understand, I challenge myself to legitimately collect every minion and beat every boss in this game. Basically, I'm a moron. Also, the only gameplay change here is the number of minion slots I'm gonna have because I'm about to go way over the maximum. They say variety is the spice of life, so I created a new character named Mr. Spice. I like having a lot to explore, so I created a medium world, and I went with Crimson because I like it more than Corruption. Sorry, haters. Okay, this name sounds way too happy. There. Much better. And it perfectly sums up my experience over the next 50 hours. Before we start, just a couple of things. First of all, this is not Terraria 1.4.5 because you can't mod it. That means we don't get the mushroom staff. But this is all you're missing. Okay, damn it, that's pretty cool. Also, as you can tell, this video took me a very long time, so I would appreciate it if you smash the like button, especially if you'd like to see me make a video on 1.4.5. So here I am in Terraria. My first step is remembering how to play it again? This game gets incredibly complicated, but obviously I need to get a summon weapon as soon as possible, so I just started exploring, hoping to find a living tree, which will hopefully have a finch staff in it. I somehow ended up in the jungle, which is my favorite area of the game, but not when I have pretty much no gear. Then I saw a beehive and I jumped off a cliff to my death. Not intentionally, but that's one way to get out of a bad situation. Then I built a decent house. I'll eventually stick my NPCs in a bunch of tiny prison boxes, but I can have a little class for now. I tried to get a full set of cactus armor and fell a little short. Why did I even want to get cactus armor in the first place? I don't know. In the first living wood tree I came across, I found a finch staff, and I also picked up a spiffo at some point. He's a pet, so like a summon, but useless. Then a blood moon started, and I figured I might as well farm. I'd be lying if I said half this game was farming, because 90% of this game is farming. The blood moon was worth it though, because I got a money trough, which summons a portable piggy bank, and I got 2 bloody tears, so I can summon the blood moon again later. Then I went to the ice biome and got enough flinx fur to craft a flinx staff. But I also needed 10 gold bars. So I got my flinx staff and then I headed to the jungle to farm and explore, where I found a pair of Hermes boots. Now it almost looks like I'm not wearing pants. I really needed a vampire frog staff before I fought any of the bosses, so I used a bloody tear to start a blood moon. The staff drops from mermen and wandering eye fish, which have a chance to spawn when you're fishing during a blood moon. I got nothing on the first night, so I used a gravitational potion to search the floating islands, and I found a star fury. Then I traveled all the way to the left end of the map, found some more cactuses, a crimson biome, and the angler. I waited to make sure he wasn't gonna drown, but unfortunately I didn't get that lucky. On the second night, I made a fishing hut and I tried another blood moon. I did get myself a chum caster, but no frog staff. Oh, and then I finally put on pants. Then I decided to go full solitary confinement on these NPCs with this lovely design I found. I started a mine shaft next to my base, and then I mined tungsten to upgrade my armor. At this point, I figured I might as well do the first boss fight and summon the Eye of Cthulhu. I gotta say, I really admire the Flinx's spirit. I maybe could have left them to try and do the job themselves, but it was hard to watch. I ended up defeating him pretty easily in the end, and then I crafted a slime crown and fought the Slime King. Again, I could have left them alone here, but they're not exactly good. I definitely need to get more summon weapons. After I finished off King Slime, I went to the jungle and killed Queen Bee. Flinx is an absolute gem. My spirit animal for sure. I got the bee gun from the queen bee, but more importantly, I got bee wax so I could craft a new summon weapon. The Hornet Staff. Now things are starting to look a little bit better. Next, I went to the Crimson and blew up 3 hearts to start the fight with the Brain of Cthulhu. I held off a bit in this fight to watch instead. It was pretty easy, so I went and did it again to get more drops. I'll use these tissue samples to make obsidian armor, but first I need to find the obsidian. I found some lava and directed some water to it to get a bunch of obsidian, but then I realized I also needed to get a Hellforge in order to craft it, so I ended up blasting my way to hell and finding one. With my Hellforge, I was able to craft the obsidian outlaw hat, long coat, and pants. It's actually the same defense as tungsten armor, but with a 31% minion damage boost. And on the next blood moon, I managed to get the vampire frog staff from a werewolf, so now I had 4 minions. Later, a goblin army showed up. I ended up taking care of it pretty quickly, and now I can get the goblin tinkerer to show up, meaning I can then reforge weapons and combine accessories. Then, as luck would have it, I actually grew an Abigail's flower. A taboo Abigail's flower. And then there were 5 minions. I still need to make an imp staff with Hellstone, but I decided to give Skeletron a try first. I whipped his hands one at a time so my minions could focus them. Then I let them do all the damage on his head. Things are working out well with 5 minions. Then I went back to the dungeon and opened some gold chests, and I also found some lovely art for the NPCs, including a picture of Hell to remind the angler of home. Personally, I think the guide's quarters look quite nice, especially with a portrait of himself on the wall. By the way, I know it looks like my minions are trying to break into your house and kill you, but I assure you, they won't. They're just like this all the time. So anyway, I went back to Hell with everything I needed to make obsidian skin potions, got some fire blossom, mined some hellstone, and crafted the imp staff. And then there were 6 minions. I blew up a bunch of buildings in Hell and placed some platforms, and I was gonna summon Wall of Flesh, but there was a party happening, and since I'm not a jerk, I waited until the party was over before I cast one of its attendees into the fires of Hell. I just marked one of the Wall of Flesh's eyes or mouth and stayed away from him so my minions could take care of it. Beating him got me the Ranger emblem and a Pwn Hammer, and then hard mode begins. I'd like to mention the slime staff here because it's the one weapon I didn't get in pre-hard mode, and that's because it's one of the rarest drops in Terraria with a 1 in 10,000 chance of dropping from a slime. But don't worry, I'll get it eventually. The first thing I did in hard mode was head to the nearest spider nest so I could farm spider fangs from the brown recluses to craft the spider staff. And then there were 7 minions. Hard mode minions are a huge step up from the pre-hard mode ones, so I was instantly much stronger. So I tried fighting Queen Slime, and I didn't last very long. Stronger, but still weak for hard mode. Then I used my Pwn Hammer to break 3 Crimson Altars and unlock Palladium, Mithril, and Titanium. I mined Palladium to make a pickaxe to mine Mithril, then Mithril to make an anvil and a drill, and then I used the drill to mine Titanium to make the best pickaxe currently available. I also found a ridiculous amount of gelatin crystals to summon Queen Slime with. I saw this warning but forgot what it was, and then the Destroyer came along and killed a bunch of people, including me. I tried Queen Slime a couple more times, but I just couldn't stay alive long enough with all the projectiles coming at me. I also used the Titanium Sword to help keep the slimes away, but the best I could do was half kill her. So I decided to grind some more Wall of Flesh kills to try and get the Summoner emblem, which will definitely help by boosting my summon damage. Sometimes it's hard to find guide voodoo dolls, so it's a better idea to just build the guide a house in Hell and then drop his real body into the lava. Poor guy. A while later I got invaded by pirates and I died a lot, which is bad because when you die you have to summon everything over again. And during events like this it's not easy to do. I took down 1 pirate ship which can drop the pirate staff, but it didn't. Later, I finally got the Summoner emblem from the Wall of Flesh so I could focus on something besides murdering innocent NPCs. At this point, I decided to get a little bit of extra help from the Queen Spider Staff. This is a sentry, so it doesn't move around with you, and it's not quite a minion, but it does a lot of damage. So I farmed 24 spider fangs and crafted the staff, then I challenged Queen Slime, and I actually beat her. She dropped a gelatinous pillion, which lets you ride a winged slime. This could be huge for future boss fights. Sure enough, Queen Slime was way easier with the mount, and I even got the blade staff. And then there were 8 minions, and a squirrel. With the Goblin Tinkerer, every time I get a new summon weapon, I can reforge it to make sure it's extra strong. I also completed the Old One's Army. It's a wave-based event, and it's not that difficult, but it was on the list of things to defeat. Once I was able to beat Queen Slime a lot, I farmed her for the Crystal Assassin Armor, which gave me more defense and a dash, but I lost my summoning buff. I really needed to use the Tinkerer's Workshop to improve my gear at this point, so I went to the jungle to find Feral Claws. And what do you know? An ivy chest with a pair of Feral Claws. Now I can combine these with the Titan Glove to make the Power Glove. Now I really need to get the Flesh Knuckles to combine with my Power Glove, so I went back to the Crimson to try and farm one from a Crimson Mimic. Evidently, this game would rather see me die of old age. 2 hours of unsuccessful grinding left me broke. But only emotionally. I was supposed to kill Deerclops a long time ago, so I decided to finally do it. But first I made some flasks of ichor to use with my whip to lower enemy defense. Also, up until this point, I'd been keeping my summon weapons in my inventory, but I was getting sick of having so little space, so I put them all in a chest next to the spawn. Deerclops was pretty easy, but that's because he's a pre-hard mode boss. I realized the next fight I had to do was with the twins, which means it's mech boss time. I'd been dreading this part, but it ended up being super easy. I just focused one of them until it was dead, and then I killed the other one. Huge W for ichor debuff and a winged mount. I can't just move on to the rest of the mech bosses when I haven't even gotten the other 2 available pre-mech summon weapons, so I went back to pirate invasions in the hopes the pirate ship would drop the pirate staff. Luckily, it only took 2 invasions to get it. And then there were 9 minions. Okay, maybe now I can do another mech fight, considering I'm just waiting for a blood moon so I can try for the sanguine staff again. The minions were doing okay damage, plus I was able to use my slime to bounce on the destroyer without taking damage. Overall, this boss is kind of slow and predictable, so as long as you keep away from his head and dodge the lasers, it's not that bad. I managed to beat it on the first try, which I was pretty happy about. I used halibars to make a Durendal, which is so much better than the leather whip I was using, it's ridiculous. I killed Wall of Flesh so many times, but he just would not drop the firecracker. Now, if I want the next summon weapon, the sanguine staff, I need another blood moon. But what am I supposed to do? Just go full bed rot and sleep time away? Also, until this moment, I forgot what I don't like about the pirate. He's always pooping. I'm just glad there's only one of them. Luckily, the next night ended up being a blood moon. I immediately went fishing, killed 2 blood eels and a goblin shark. I got a black lens and a bloody tear that night, and I crafted the optic staff. And then there were 10 minions? The optic staff makes 2 of these guys per minion slot, so they come out to be about the same damage as a pirate. So we'll just call them 1 minion. I spent the whole next blood moon fishing, and guess what? Not a single bloody tear. I even spawned a Dread Nautilus like I was trying to do, and the 50-50 chance of him dropping the sanguine staff did not work out in my favor. So I decided to focus on Skeletron Prime the next night, and it was a pretty pleasant fight. I literally just held left mouse button and pointed at each of his hands, and then his head. Killing Skeletron Prime unlocks the ability to fight Plantera, but the bulbs grow slowly just like chlorophyte, so I decided to focus on fishing for an anklet in the jungle instead. I didn't find one, but I did come across a Plantera bulb, and even though I didn't have an arena or buffs, I said heck it and gave it a shot. I am not at all disappointed in the damage I'm seeing from my minions. The fight ended quickly and I got a temple key. Only I don't know where the temple is. Beating Plantera makes new skeletons spawn in the dungeon, so I headed over there and very quickly got myself a tabby. Then I just needed to get the black belt as well. Both drops come from Bone Lee, but he seems to spawn more often than the stupid Crimson Mimic. I also got a Morning Star, which is, wow, a lot better than the Durendal, which I was already impressed with. This is the last whip I need until I beat Empress of Light. The best thing about the dungeon now, though, you can sometimes get barbecue ribs. 24 minutes of major improvements. When I got the black belt, I immediately went back to my base and combined the 2 drops with my climbing gear to make the Master Ninja gear. Next, I wanted to get the Tiger Staff, which is in the desert chest in the dungeon, but unfortunately, the desert key is quite a rare drop. So I gave up and went to the jungle to find the temple and fight Golem instead. I dug straight down below my jungle NPCs, and what do you know, I landed right on top of the temple. Man, I forgot how absolutely annoying the enemies in here are, especially when you're hitting them as many times as my minions are. Bro, you can't be serious right now. Golem was an absolute cakewalk. So easy, in fact, that I beat him another 8 times because I really wanted to get my hands on a pick saw, since it can mine any block in the game. And of course I get a jungle key while I'm down here too, because I don't need a jungle key. With Golem dead, the next challenge is the Pumpkin Moon. It's similar to the old one's army, but without the portals. In later waves, pumpkins spawn, which have a 1.5% chance of dropping the Raven Staff. I killed a few, but no luck. But I got so much spooky wood that I was able to craft spooky armor. Slightly less defense, but a 58% summon damage boost. It doesn't have a dash, but I don't need it now because I have the Master Ninja gear. In the dungeon, I use my jungle key on the jungle chest and boo, there's nothing good in here. I like to switch to something different after getting my resolve ground into a pulp, so after my next visit to the desert where nothing good ever happens, I decided to try and get the Xenostaff from a Martian invasion. You just need to go to the outer end of the map and spend some time in the sky. Oh, and I should probably get rid of my minions as well so they don't immediately kill the probe. Once I got a probe to spot me, I went back and summoned my minions again and killed a few Martian saucers. You'll never guess how many Xenostaffs I got. So I did an eclipse in the desert to try and get a desert key, and to my surprise, I ended up with the Sphere Staff. I forgot all about this one. And then there were 11 minions. This is not only more minions than you can normally get at this point in the game, but it's also the highest possible minion count you can have in Terraria without mods. So here's where things start getting a little more interesting. Soon after that, I finally got another blood moon. And the kicker, I got a tear at the beginning of the night. I spawned another Dread Nautilus, and this one dropped the Sanguine Staff. And then there were 12 minions. Okay, now things are starting to feel pretty good, even if I spent the next 2 hours making pretty much no progress. I decided to go back to Martian Madness, and this time I got a Cosmic Car Key, which is pretty cool because it gives full flight. Which reminds me, how have I not already gotten a pair of wings? I should probably get on that. My only comfort here is that if I hang out in the clouds with a water candle and a battle potion, I can get another Martian probe in like 60 seconds. So even though it took like 5 or 6 invasions, I finally got my Xenostaff. And then there were 13 minions. Okay, now can I complete the Pumpkin Moon and get my Raven Staff? Please? I farmed the Pumpkin Moon until my freaking eyes bled. And I ended up getting so mad at my luck in this game that I went and killed the Lunatic Cultist out of spite. This is the last boss fight before Moonlord. While I was looking up the recipes for the endgame summons, I realized that I didn't get the Pygmy Staff from Plantera. So I quickly went to the jungle, killed Plantera, and obviously I didn't get the drop. That's a given at this point. At least the Stardust summons can be crafted so you don't need to be repeatedly beaten by Terraria's RNG, so I took out the Stardust Pillar and got 34 Stardust. 2 less than enough to make both summons. So obviously I went with the Stardust Dragon because just look at this guy. And then there were 14 minions! Before I took on the pillars, I went back to the jungle, found some more Plantera bulbs, and killed Plantera 4 times to receive the Pygmy Staff. And then there were 15 minions. The cool thing about having one of each minion is they take up so much more space. They're spread out enough that usually at least one of them can attack any enemy that comes by. I decided I was okay with 15 summons at this point. The pillars need to be taken out, plus I can craft more Stardust fragments using the other 3 fragment types in the Ancient Manipulator. First I took care of the Nebula Pillar. This one's magic themed. You are overwhelmed with pain. What's new? After that, I did the Vortex Pillar. These guys have guns. I don't like being shot with guns. The hardest part of the Solar Pillar is the Crawltipede, which is really fast and you can only hurt him by hitting his tail. Impending doom approaches. Yeah, I was not ready at all for the actual Moonlord fight. I knew I was gonna die, but I still tried to start my Sky Bridge. That was, no. Then I crafted the 2 Stardust fragments I needed to make myself a Stardust Cell Staff. And then there were 16 minions. At this point, I'm missing the following summon weapons. The Slime Staff, a 1 in 10,000 slime drop. The Desert Tiger Staff, a 1 in 2,500 desert drop. The Raven Staff, a 1 in something drop from Pumpkin. The Tempest Staff, a 1 in 5 drop from Duke Fishron. And the Terra Prisma, a guaranteed drop from Empress of Light if you can beat her during the day. No problem, right? Well, a 1 out of 5 sounded nice, so I went truffle worm farming, and then I used one of those truffle worms in the ocean to fight Duke Fishron. I got off to a really bad start and didn't quite recover from it. Didn't help that I went straight into a tornado. On the second try, I forgot my water walking potion. Don't know how I managed to survive the rest of the fight after that, but I did. I think Duke Fishron might actually be the GOAT because I got the Tempest Staff on my second kill. And then there was 17 minions. I don't have much experience with the Tempest Staff, but you know what? This Sharknado thing is pretty friggin' good. And this dragon, especially in enclosed spaces, is awesome. You can only ever have one anyway, so in this situation, even though he could be a bit stronger, he's almost as effective as he would be with more slots used. I ended up making a little house in the desert and setting my spawn there so I could try and get a desert key. And if it's any testament to how good my minions are now, I managed to kill 4 Dread Nautiluses in a single night. Then, while I was doing the umpteenth pumpkin moon, I finally got a desert key. So I went to the dungeon, unlocked the chest, and got the Desert Tiger Staff. And then there were 18 minions! Also, I can't believe this, but I finally got the Raven Staff from the Pumpkin Moon, and then I got another one in the same night. Wow. At the end of the night, I had 132 pumpkin kills. And I now have 2 desert keys. 2 keys, 2 staffs. Man, does this game love to make fun of me. And then there were 19 minions. At this point, I finally crafted some wings. It only took me this long because I relied so heavily on the slime mount. Okay, now I had to get the slime staff. Originally, I thought that statue mobs couldn't drop loot, but it turns out that statue slimes can drop the slime staff. So I went out and I searched and I found a slime statue and then I wired it up to a trigger and now I can kill 2 slimes every second. I didn't care that much about the life fruit, but I figured I should try and get some more. So I went to the jungle and I ended up finding an anklet. After all this time, I didn't even have lightning boots. And I'm about to fight Moonlord. During the day, I farmed slimes, and then at night, I went to the Hallow biome to find prismatic lacewings. Killing one spawns the Empress of Light, so I fought her. And I died. And then I died again. Then I realized that since she's always flying and you need a lot of space in this fight, it would be better for me to use my UFO, and it made the fight so much easier. Once I got the kaleidoscope to drop, I moved on to farming slimes at night and fighting Empress during the day, where any damage from her will result in instant death. I ended up reforging all my gear to menacing so I could deal extra damage and take her out quicker. Because the faster she dies, the faster I don't. And then I managed to go a whole 60 seconds without getting hit, and I got the Terra Prisma. And what's this? Before I even got a chance to summon the Terra Prisma, I had a slime staff too. And then there were 21 minions. Every single minion. With every minion spawned and my gear about as good as I was willing to spend time getting it, I completed the boss checklist. I started with the Frost Moon where I had to kill Ice Queen, who is basically just the Frost Moon's version of Pumpkin. Something to get on my nerves for about 8 seconds at a time. Then I summoned an Old One's army so I could kill Betsy, who is much more like a real boss than Ice Queen or Pumpkin. And then there was only one boss left, Moonlord. So I went back to the cultist, took him out, and then took out the 4 pillars as well. This time I actually had a big sky bridge to help me with the Moonlord fight. It didn't help that much because I kind of had no idea how to beat Moonlord. It's been several years, okay? I had to do the pillars again because I ran out of materials to summon Moonlord, but then I focused on staying away from him, plus trying to evenly do damage to his hands and eye so that they can all get destroyed around the same time. I'm gonna blame my best minions for me winning here since they did all the work while I ran away like a baby. And then Moonlord died. That means I'm done now, right? I can stop playing? No. Not exactly. You just know I had to get the best summoning armor in the game to go along with my full roster of minions, so I, did the whole thing over again, pillars and all. Then after Moonlord died again, I had enough Luminite bars to craft the Stardust armor. Not only did it slightly bump my summon damage, but it also comes with a summon of its own, the Stardust Guardian. And that is how I collected and summoned every minion in Terraria and used them to beat every boss. And damn it, I hope this video was at least mildly entertaining because it shaved some serious time off my life. I want to thank you for watching all the way to the end. Thank you for hitting that like button, and you can click right here to watch another one of my videos.